Tonight, a community rallies around a Saskatchewan teenager badly hurt in a rodeo accident, while also raising awareness about spinal cord injuries. Also, why businesses in Moose Jaw are upset about a new taxation model that has the little guy paying more than the big guys. Plus,
it's reached a boiling point to where we're using the word crisis more and more often.
A closer look at the issues plaguing veterinary medical services in Saskatchewan.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, January 11th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thanks for watching. A teenager from a southwest Saskatchewan village has thousands of people cheering on his recovery. The 16-year-old suffered a severe spinal cord injury during a recent rodeo. Now he's in a Calgary hospital, paralyzed. As Sam Sampson shows us, his story is one of resilience, hope, and community support.
A cowboy in the zone, months before the accident. But now, Sandy Cooper Black's rodeo career is over before it really started. The 16-year-old saddle bronc rider from Console, Saskatchewan was in a southern Alberta rodeo on December 30th. He wanted to keep his game fresh for high school rodeo events in the spring, but the horse bucked him off. He broke his neck. He spoke to us from a Calgary hospital.
I actually didn't panic until I got into the ambulance, but I stayed pretty cool on the ground. I couldn't move my arms or legs or nothing.
He spent almost a week in a Calgary ICU. He had a slim chance of talking or just breathing on his own, but he is. With a serious spinal cord injury, the focus is on moving again. Doctors say he'll probably use a wheelchair from now on, so Cooper Black will work on his upper body first.
A lot of people have told me and showed me proof that even if the doctor says you won't get your arms back or your legs back, there's still a chance that you get them back. So just not to give up.
One of those people is Ryan Straznitsky. The hockey player survived the Humboldt Broncos bus crash, but was left paralyzed.
I obviously had tons of questions when I first got injured, and I made sure I could answer those. But at the same time, I just wanted to let them know to stay hopeful. I mean, hope is what keeps us driving to get better every day.
He's 16 going on 75. He's kind of an old soul.
Coulter Wall, country music singer and friend of the family, wants to help too.
So starting today, all proceeds from all sales, physical and digital sales, of my album Western Swingin' Waltzes are going to go towards Sandy and his rehabilitation and his recovery.
The family says people have donated more than $60,000 from the album and another online fundraiser. All that money, they say, will go to any kind of treatment he needs.
We'd all trade places with him in a heartbeat if we could, but he's the one that's strong enough to get through this, and nothing's going to stop him.
It seems Cooper Black's family and friends will make sure of that. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Regina.
The Saskatchewan Health Authority has launched a pilot project with paramedics to help ease pressure on emergency departments. EMS workers who respond to a 911 call for a case that is not life-threatening will be able to consult a virtual triage physician. That doctor will help paramedics decide if a patient can be released at home or referred to a family doctor rather than going to the hospital ER. It only applies to 6 kinds of cases, including hypoglycemia, heat illness, and minor lacerations. The Saskatchewan College of Paramedics was involved in the development of the pilot.
If the patient is reluctant in any way or has questions about staying at home as opposed to going to the emergency department, the paramedic can contact the virtual physician. The physician will talk to both the paramedic and the patient and provide reassurance if they need it. And if the patient still wishes to be transported, they can be. But in the case of stable patients, the idea is to keep them at home where they're comfortable, and as long as they're not going to deteriorate any further.
The treatment and referral project will take place in Saskatoon over the next 6 to 12 months before likely expanding to Regina and some smaller communities. The pilot will run for 3 years. Small business owners in Moose Jaw are upset about changes to property assessments that have led to dramatic tax increases. They say they're paying more while larger businesses are paying less. Adam Hunter has been looking into this for us and joins me now. Adam, what is happening here?
Sam, this started in 2021 when the Saskatchewan Assessment Management Agency changed its property assessment model. It handles property assessments for the city of Moose Jaw. The domino effect of this was that property taxes increased dramatically for small businesses and smaller property owners, while on the other hand, larger businesses and larger property owners, their neighbors, ended up paying less, significantly less in property taxes from the previous year. Now, obviously, this has upset small business owners in the city. And I spoke to one of them, Bernie Dombowski. He's been leading the charge, and he recently posted a video on YouTube.
That would be like small retail shops, hair salons, and restaurants. Some of their property tax rose by over 100%. For example, this shop's tax bill was about $6,400. Then it increased to almost $13,000.
Dombowski co-owns a catering company in Moose Jaw that's been around for decades. His video has nearly 9,000 views in just 5 days, so it's getting a lot of attention in the city. He says he's even put up a for sale sign in his business. He says it's not because he can't afford the property tax hikes. He says it's because the issue is a matter of fairness.
So Adam, what is the city saying about this? What's their response?
Well, Dombowski and others spoke at council on Monday. One of the city councilors said it was the largest crowd they'd had under the current administration. It's obviously got a lot of attention in the city. That councilor saying it's the biggest issue in Moose Jaw at the moment. Now, council voted to make SAMA, the Assessment Management Agency, take a look at this through an audit through their Quality Assurance Division. Now, that is what was in front of council on Monday. City Manager Jim Pufalt was the one who brought that recommendation to City Council. And he says the drastic changes in the assessment model, which led to the property tax increases for small businesses and decreases for larger businesses, does not make a lot of sense.
It's a large issue. We have, as we know, a huge number of small businesses in the community. As a tourism community, it's certainly something you expect to happen. And so it affects a lot of people. And so if they're concerned as a city, it's our responsibility to hear what their concerns are and see if there's some way to resolve those issues.
Pufalt says that Moose Jaw is SAMA's largest contract, and he and the city want this issue dealt with quickly, and they want the audit to take place. But it's not that simple. The ball is in SAMA's court. They will ultimately decide through their board whether an audit will take place or not. And I spoke with Bernie Dombowski today, the business owner in Moose Jaw who is leading this charge. He says they will not give up until they get their way.
All right, thanks for this, Adam. The CBC's Adam Hunter in Regina tonight. Star Blanket Cree Nation says it has made a major discovery while searching for unmarked graves at the site of a former residential school. The First Nation will hold a press conference tomorrow morning to reveal the details. The announcement comes after more than a year of searching the site of the former LeBret Indian Industrial School, located about an hour northeast of Regina. The school first opened in 1884 and didn't shut down until 1998. Star Blanket Cree Nation is one of several First Nations in Saskatchewan that's using ground-penetrating radar to look for the remains of children who may have died while attending residential school. If you're trying to see a vet for your dog, cat, or cow, expect to wait. A Canada-wide shortage of vets and vet technicians is affecting service here in Saskatchewan, and those who care for pets are calling it a crisis. Daniela Ponticelli reports.
Greg Wilford's dogs haven't had to see the vet lately, but he knows that can change unexpectedly.
If one of my dogs got injured and I couldn't get in, it would be a nightmare, because I know even when they're not feeling good, it's kind of hard to focus on anything else.
It's a scenario that's become more common in Saskatchewan. Some vet clinics are posting longer wait times, even canceling hours, as they deal with the shortage of veterinary professionals.
This has been an issue for many, many years that's been culminating, and I would say at this point it's reached a boiling point to where we're using the word crisis.
Dr. Sarah Allen says the strain is worse in rural areas, which often have fewer veterinarians who travel long distances to treat livestock. Those vets relying on bigger centers to take on overflow.
They could send them off in those cases when they can't handle it all. And that's becoming more and more difficult because even those larger centers are not adequately staffed to handle emergencies.
Our current client list, so clients that have been serviced in the last year, is 25,000 people. And we're trying to do that with 2 full-time vets and 1 quarter-time vet.
This veterinarian's practice in Prince Albert no longer has after-hours service because of their shortage. He says nearby clinics have stepped up to help, understanding everyone is facing burnout.
Nobody can really work around the clock without a break, without being able to sleep in the evening, and then to do the caseload that we were expected to do during the day, it's impossible.
There are longer-term solutions in play. The Western College of Veterinary Medicine in Saskatoon has added more seats and is doing a feasibility study to expand further. The province is also offering loan forgiveness for vet students who go to rural areas. In the meantime, humans who are concerned about a sick pet will have the added worry of waiting for care. Daniela Ponticelli, CBC News, Regina.
A forecast fit for your furry friends. Another foggy day in the Queen City, but it's not nearly as cold out there as it looks. And today was as cold as it's going to get this week. As for what is to come, Heather Morrison has your forecast after the break. Stay with us. Tomorrow night, a Regina brew pub will be holding a last blast party for one of its own. Cheryl Tovey has spent more than 30 years working at Bushwhacker, and now she's officially hanging up her apron. Tovey started working there in 1992, 1 year after it opened. We sat down with her and the bar's manager for a look back.
Here, I could be myself, and I learned everything as we went along. And, you got to know all the people you were serving and my coworkers. Grant and I, we've been together for 30 years, we've lasted longer than some marriages.
I do remember meeting Cheryl, and I do remember that being frantic and busy, and I remember her running around, but I also remember her being fairly calm and cool and collected. She seemed to know what she was doing, and I think I told her shortly afterwards what a good job I thought she did, and she didn't really know me from a hole in the wall or what my position was or what I even did here.
Had no idea.
We like to keep things cool and calm here at the Bushwhacker.
Yeah, what do you care? Working at this place for 30 years, and as soon as lunch starts, your heart starts pity-pattering because you've got you might have 4 tables that seat themselves, they get there at once, get their orders, get their drinks, get their food. You've got to do this, but you've got your food up, you've got to do that, but you've got somebody wants to pay. It's pretty crazy. You got to be very organized. I feel like I've honed it. It's just been a part of me. So, I just know what, and I just run, which is probably not good for people trying to relax, but it's just I got to get there and do that now.
What I'm looking forward to is this big farewell party for Cheryl. She's going to go out with a bang. We're going to have a black raspberry porter that Cheryl will tap at 5:30 to kick off the event.
Cheryl won't be tapping it, just so you know.
You're not going to tap it?
No, I'm not tapping it.
You're not going to tap it?
No.
Well, who's going to tap it?
I'm going to let you know that night. I already have
so
somebody
it's going to
picked
be
out.
a surprise. Well, then I'm going to make sure you're in the line of fire, so at least you get sprayed by that beer when it's tapped.
No, it's not going to happen either. Okay. But anyways, carry on.
But anyway, so we'll have that firkin of beer. And there's a number of people that are going to come and say a little something, offer some tributes to Cheryl.
All the customers, they all, I started serving them, and then they had kids, and now their kids are old enough to drink. I'm pretty old. And, so just the whole package going around, it's all been a big whirlwind. And it's just been, I've made so many friends, so many good friends. That's the best. It doesn't even seem like it's been 30 years. It didn't mean where did the time go? It was 20. Okay, well, I'll just go, it's 25, and then I'm it's 30. It's I better quit before I'm 31.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. The trade and upgrade event is on now.
And Heather Morrison joins me now with a look at your forecast, and it looks like those venturing out for Cheryl's retirement party won't have to battle the cold.
Yes, Sam, if anybody gets sprayed with beer from that firkin, they don't have to worry about getting too chilled because we are still in above seasonal temperatures this week, which is really nice. But there is something else that we're dealing with in this province. Let's take a look here. The fog continues. We're still under a fog advisory for the south and central part of the province. As you can see, it is mostly now just hugging that west border. It's cleared from the Prince Albert and the Saskatchewan area. And the reason the fog is such a big deal is really about the visibility. So if you're out there and you're doing some traveling, you can see it's fine up in La Ronge, Prince Albert's unlimited visibility, but then as you get into that southwest corner of the province, we're down to 600 meters in Swift Current, 400 meters at Kindersley. At points today in Swift Current, the visibility was 0. And that's something you do have to deal with when you're under a fog advisory as travelers. So just take care out there. Make sure you're safe on the roads. Now, in terms of what the skies are looking like, you can see we do have that fog, that mist, that cloud covering the province as well. And then watch what's happening up north here. We've got this sprinkling of snow that's moving in overnight. It's going to be just dusting the far north tomorrow and into the next day as well before it's going to be finally clearing. Now, temperature-wise, what is going on? Well, let's take a look here at the current temperatures around the province. So you can see hovering around the -10, -11 mark. And I just want to say that's usually the high for a day like today. And as you can see, we're hitting it at about 6 o'clock at night. That means that we're doing pretty well temperature-wise. And that great temperature trend is going to continue. So as you watch here, the lighter the blue gets, the darker the blue gets and into the greens, the warmer it is going to be. So look at Friday here. You can see that southwest corner of the province just enjoying some really nice, delicious, warm temperatures that are going to be moving in well above normal. So in terms of wind gusts, let's see here, not too much going on in the province in terms of wind. We got steady speeds about 15, 20 kilometers per hour. We do see we're going to get some gusts up to 47, 36 in the bottom, that southwest corner tomorrow, but nothing too significant for the rest of the province and really dying off for Friday. So let's take a look here at the 7-day forecast for Regina, because you'll see the story of that warm air moving in. So tomorrow the high is -6 for Regina tomorrow, but I just want to let you know you're not waking up to that. So you're going to slowly work your way towards that throughout the day, because that warm air is moving in throughout the evening, and then coming in Friday is really the nice warm day that you get to enjoy before we drop back off as we head throughout the weekend. Got a 40% chance of snow on Sunday as well. So in Saskatoon, very similar story, but not as warm, but still well above seasonal normals for this time of year in Saskatoon. Highs of -20, highs of -10, lows of -20. So we get a little bit of a warm up on Thursday, but not as much on Friday. And then the weekend still looking good, still well above seasonal. As I said, Sam, we're not going to be complaining too much about the weather these days.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks, Sam.
Oh my heart. This one is for book lovers everywhere. Logos Hope, the largest floating international book fair, recently pulled into Port Said, Egypt. Its long-standing mission is to promote knowledge and diversity. The crew, made up of volunteers from dozens of nations, wears their traditional costumes and welcome visitors aboard. The ship offers a selection of about 5,000 different titles in a vast array of subjects, both in Arabic and English. It's operated by a non-profit organization in Germany. We'll be back after the break. Some planes are back in the air across the U.S. after being grounded for hours this morning due to a computer system failure at the Federal Aviation Administration. The agency says departures resumed this morning, but delays and cancellations continue. And the glitch has affected travelers in Canada, too. Chris Reyes has this report from New York.
Sorry for the inconvenience, but like I say, this is a nationwide issue. It's not just a local issue.
That announcement went out in every airport in the U.S. after the Federal Aviation Administration issued a nationwide ground stop during air travel rush hour. Transport Secretary Pete Buttigieg says a critical system that alerts pilots of safety information went down at about 7 a.m.
For safety reasons, to make sure that every aircraft that took off was doing so safely, FAA implemented a ground stop lasting about an hour and a half.
It's yet another headache for travelers still recovering after massive delays and cancellations during the holiday season.
It's crazy. A lot of people out there that are struggling, so hopefully they can figure it out.
Well, it does make one wonder what would have happened. You would think that the FAA would have pretty solid computer systems, and this is kind of a surprise. I don't remember this ever happening before.
President Joe Biden says so far no evidence of a cyber attack.
We don't know. Okay, we'll find out.
At Pearson International in Toronto, passengers arrived after hours of delay from U.S. flights.
We're pretty tired and jet lagged, but I'm just happy to be back. It's nice being back home in Canada.
Our flight was supposed to leave at 6. We didn't leave until 9. Yeah, so we came from a 10 hours flight for a 3 hours wait for another 3 hours flight.
Secretary Buttigieg says the ground stop was done out of abundance of caution.
These kinds of disruptions should not happen. And my primary interest, now that we've gotten through the immediate disruptions of the morning, is understanding exactly how this was possible and exactly what steps are needed to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Transport Minister Omar Alghabra says Canada is watching the issue closely.
We're going to stay in coordination with our U.S. partners to understand what had happened and what can we do to avoid similar interruptions.
The FAA lifted the ground stop just after 9 a.m. and flights are returning to normal. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
People across California are scrambling to clean up as much as they can before the next storm hits. The state has been getting drenched by a string of storms since the beginning of the month. The ground has become so saturated that avalanches and mudslides are now a bigger concern than flooding in some areas. At least 17 people have died because of the weather. Some damage estimates have topped $1 billion. As much as 20 centimeters of rain has fallen in some areas, and 60 centimeters of snow has fallen at higher elevations. At least 2 more storms are forecast to hit the state within the next week. And Heather's back with one last look at your weather. Not much rain in our forecast these days, but there is something folks in the south are dealing with.
That's right, Sam. So we do still have that fog. The advisory lifted for some parts of the province, but it is expected to return overnight. So let's take a look at what we're looking at temperature-wise for the province. So as you can see in Regina, pretty mild night, overnight cloudy, -14, waking up to not too bad temperatures either. So that's pretty good for this time of year. Now, as I said, -6 is the high for Regina today. You're still not going to be there at noon. You're not going to be there until later in the afternoon. But sun and clouds expected tomorrow, not that fog. So midnight tonight in Saskatoon, cloudy, -12. And then same thing, not really warming up much for the morning. That warm up's going to come later in the day. See, we got the wind chill there of -20. And we do have the fog, but the nice thing about that fog is it creates that beautiful rime ice that we've been seeing on the trees. This photo was submitted by Cindy in Corman Park.
Well, that dog is just adorable. Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome, Sam.
And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/SAS or /Saskatoon, or subscribe to CBC Saskatchewan's YouTube channel. Glenn Reed and Heather will be back with more local news and weather tonight at 11. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great night.